there's two distinctive reads, I think, on this. And I think the more popular of the two, and we can talk about both of them, is there are going to be a lot of people upset with Craig Counsell, who is a guy that has painted himself and I think has been genuine as a Wisconsin guy. He's from here, of course. Everyone knows this story. Deep roots in the Brewers organization. His father worked for the Brewers. He grew up with the Brewers and has said many times he feels sort of a responsibility as the shepherd of the Brewers organization and has led them to heights like never before since he's gotten here in 2015. You know, he built them back up or helped build them back up to the point that they were a perennial contender for the playoffs. There's, we don't have to rehash it. Like, this is the most successful stretch in Brewers history, and he's been at the forefront of it. And to go to the Cubs, who again are seen as the primary rival for a lot of Brewers fans. This is the team that the hated Cubs. To go 90 miles south to the bigger market, presumably more resources, to make a team that's on the rise a little bit in this division, direct competitor. You could see a situation where it's Cubs Brewers coming down to the wire next year already. So a lot of people are going to feel betrayed by that. Betrayal is going to be a word a lot of people use. There's also the other read that the Brewers ownership team, Mark Adonazio and others, did not want to pay $8 million a year for a manager, for this manager, the guy that, clearly has the talent as one of the best managers in the league, or at least he's valued as such. And either they didn't want to pony up the cash, which is negligible in the grand scheme of a baseball payroll. I mean, this is a lot of money, but I think we could still agree that we're not talking about tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about a few $1 million that would have been a difference between what they offered versus what the Cubs offered. Either they didn't want to match, or Craig Counsell simply didn't want to be here, which either way, that looks bad, I think, for the management, for the ownership team. Like, what was wrong that Craig Counsell didn't want to stay in this place where he grew up? So both of those, I don't know if they're competing viewpoints necessarily. I don't know if there's one that you feel like has more credence than the other, but I certainly think we're going to be discussing it in those sort of that dichotomy going forward, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think there is a general, not a rush necessarily, but a climb to take one of the two viewpoints, that either this is a betrayal by Milwaukee's own guy, Craig Counsell. I mean, he's been in Milwaukee for 17 years. He's from here. He was a Brewers fan. As someone from Milwaukee, it's a party that's like, how could you go to the Cubs? You kind of just wonder, like, isn't that just part of your DNA that you wouldn't do that? So I do understand, that side of it as well, from fans that are upset about that. I also understand the side of fans that are upset at Brewers ownership. $8 million is a lot relative to what the managerial market was. $8 million is not a lot relative to other leagues and what top coaches in those leagues make. Bill Belichick, JR, is making $20 million a year this year. How much does Nick Saban make? A whole lot of money. Now,
I don't know how much Nick Saban makes. I actually kind of want to know that now. You got to look that up.
That's why I deferred to a whole lot of money. Probably more than $8 million. He has to.
Yeah.
Look that up for me.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
I think part of an argument, and I want to get to this topic of debate too, is how much does a manager actually value? I think there can be that debate too. Is a manager really worth $8 million? But at the end of the day, I totally get the frustration from Brewers fans that are disappointed that essentially Craig Counsell was just allowed to walk to your most hated rival, who's 90 miles away down south, who you compete for division titles with year in and year out, who comes to your ballpark and overtakes your crowd. Like, there's a good reason if people want to be upset with ownership for letting Craig Counsell walk. And it's not just that too. It's like, I think it's a question of, is this money where's this money gonna go? Is this going to be a year of free agent spending, or is it going to be a continued push of, managing the finances very closely and maximizing every possible dollar spent, rather than going out and just trying to get like maybe the best players and kind of worrying about money secondarily later? I mean, maybe that's the case, but this Counsell decision was certainly one where they decided that money is not worth the whatever talent or wins they're getting back. So that's sort of just like in line with philosophically how we've seen them operate in the free agent market the last few years. JR, this is a team that did not sign they were the last team to sign a free agent last year. They have been in the bottom 5 of the league in total free agent spending the last 2 years. They have not gone out and added players via that method. And now they just lost their manager because they got outbid by their most fierce rival. So there are these two contending sides of like who's in the wrong here. I'm not necessarily going to pick a side. I think the overarching theme for me is like, wow, this is a bad day for Milwaukee Brewers baseball. Bad day for Milwaukee Brewers fans. A tough day for Brewers baseball. A tough day for Brewers fans. And that's kind of just like the overarching feeling. In addition to shock, there is shock.